Hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of Building a Leadership Mindset podcast. I'm your host, Nikki C. Super excited to be sharing an amazing guest with you today. Before we get to this beautiful show, we are going to thank our sponsors, Jose Escobar with the Connected Leaders Academy, Patrick Rude with the Dirty Little Secret Society, as well as Julia Noah with Breathe Capital Planning. If you want to know what's going on at Bomb Global, you definitely want to check out our website, buildingaleadershipmindset.com. And you can also go to our podcast section. You can check out our YouTube channel from there and the listed sponsors that we have, who they serve, and how can you connect with them. Thank you again for all you loyal followers on what we have been doing and how we continue to connect with some amazing individuals in all our respective communities and giving them an opportunity to share their story right here, bringing hope, wisdom, and the truth about the fact that entrepreneurship is not an easy walk through the woods, but it definitely is worth the journey and definitely is a must needed conversation every single day of our lives on how to build, grow, and work on self-love before we get into that serving space. So again, thank you so much for tuning in. Yes, you seen it on the flyer. We have completed 150 interviews. We're celebrating a week long with some amazing past guests, bringing their stories back, just thanking them from the bottom of our hearts for joining our Bomb Global podcast family and bringing their stories onto this platform. So if you are looking to showcase your business, definitely connect with us just to get to know each other, and we can have your story right here and share it to the world across the country. So thank you again. We have this amazing, phenomenal woman that I had the pleasure of hearing her speak on the virtual platform of Tiffany R. Harris's group, When Women Empower, which is a sister group that we have in our ladies empowerment community movements, whatever you want to call it. And she is such a powerhouse. What her and her husband are doing in their community and who they're serving, it's absolutely amazing. Latoya Washington, she is a multifaceted entrepreneur, servant in God's kingdom, co-owns RhemaCreationz Christian Apparel with her husband David, host of the impactful Broken Vessels podcast, which they're about to celebrate 3 wonderful, beautiful years. Can't wait to touch on that. And she is the author of the Broken Vessel Letters to Abba and Concrete Rose, Secret Place in Abba. Latoya's root traced back to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, a graduate of Harrisburg High to Elizabethtown College. She holds a master's from Liberty University, certified in life coaching. Her journey is marked by a passion for writing, featured in anthologies and esteemed publications like Growth in Women's Business Network magazine and Speak Up Sis. Latoya's love for Christ propels her service, leading youth Bible studies and impacting numerous platforms, guided by Psalms 103:13. She and David believe in creatively sharing God's word. Latoya embodies the mantra, "It is possible to love again, live again, and laugh again." Without further ado, let's get her on here. Latoya, how are you?
I'm good. Hearing that introduction, I'm like, oh man.
Amazing.
Oh, thank you so
Powerful.
much. Thank you so much for just having me here on this blessed podcast. Thank you.
Yes, you're absolutely welcome. Thank you for blessing our platform with what you're about to drop here. So I hope you get your pens, your papers, take notes. Life is a journey. You never know what's going to stick out and what's going to be that mindset shift for you. So before we get into it, I just have to kind of say something about the love again, live again, and laugh again. That is powerful. Like, all we want to do is love, live, and laugh,
Mhm.
enjoying life. Tell us a little bit about your upbringing. Was that the framework, or did you have to build that? Tell us a little bit about your journey.
Oh, I definitely had to build that. I was a kid who just was quiet. I also was a plus size young child, so got picked on. But I learned to kind of go into this survival mode, and I would just defend myself. So if someone made fun of me, I made fun back, and to protect myself. But as I grew older and learned about the love of God, I realized that some of those things within me had taken root. So I didn't know how to love properly or to receive love. And laughing, making fun of someone or making fun of myself is not, the right way to do things. And I can live, through a life in Christ and knowing that I didn't have the best, childhood or the best adulthood or all these different things, but I can still live and I can still have a meaningful life. And I can also show others that, you can make it through, you can press through with the love of God. So, I mean, that's only how I'm living and laughing and loving again because of Him.
Beautiful, beautiful. When did that journey start? When did you make that connection and said, you know what, this is the path that I need to lean into to really figure things out? And what are some of the things you had to figure out?
Well, good question. I would say, and I remember it like it was yesterday. It was December 31st, 2010. And I was just tired, Nikki, of going out and drinking. And at the time, I was in my first marriage and I was just not making the best decisions. I was moving, I think, as I'm growing, as I'm getting older, out of just routine, just dealing with things the best way you think you know how to. And so I just said, I can't do this anymore, Lord. And I felt it. I felt that I was just drawing away from that environment of clubbing and all that. And I just was not feeling it anymore. And it was that night where I said, this is it. I'm going to go to my cousin's church in Baltimore. And I sat there and my mind was made up that I'm going to live for Christ. And as soon as I said that, January 2011 comes and all hell breaks loose. I mean, literally, January 1st, February, March, it was constantly something. February, I get separated from my husband, my first marriage. Then in September of 2011, this is a couple of months after, and I lose everything. I lose my house, I lose my car. Because of Tropical Storm Lee, there was an area in the back of my apartment that was filling up with leaves, and it filled up so much that it flooded the apartment building. The river rescue had to come out, and I'm like, what in the world? Like, God, what is happening? um and so in all of that, He was showing me my heart and showing me how this survival mode that you're in sometimes, that you need to learn how to trust me. You have this way of loving people, but I want to show you a better way. Yeah, you can make people laugh, but I want to show you a better way. And so that's when I really started on that journey, Nikki, of living and loving and laughing again.
Oh my God, what an impactful story. Like when everything you feel like it's going well, you made this decision, what can go wrong? Nothing. Everything can go up from here, but that's not our reality, right? That's what we want
Right.
to happen, because a journey with God means that there's test involved, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
We're being tested by the universe, by everything, to see if we will stick to the choices that we made.
Hmm.
How important is your mindset? Like when those things were happening and now you're
Hmm.
on this journey, how did you cope with that? How did you ever feel like I'm going to get through this, or was it what else can happen next? Like what was your mindset and when did it go back to that positive state?
Oh, I'll be honest with you. I was not in a positive state. I was focusing, and I've learned this now as I continue to mature. We're all growing and learning. But as I continue to mature, I realized at that point, looking back, that I was always focusing on the negative, right? I was always focusing on, okay, this didn't go right. Well, yes, you lost your home and your vehicle, but you are still alive, right? And it's a vehicle and it's a home. And yes, you had valuables there, but I was only focusing on what left, what was lost, and not what God had kept and maintained. And I was still here. I still had a job through that. I still had, friends and family who were praying for me and they knew what was going on. So sorry here. I made a focus of the problem. And that took years, Nikki, to finally say, okay, this is the situation. I can't control it. This is the challenge in my business or the challenge in my family or community or whatnot. But I know God is bigger than that. And I know sooner or later it'll get better. I know sooner or later that something will turn around and it will change. But also, I know that I have something beautiful now, present, tangible in front of me. And that's what I'm going to cherish. And that instead of looking at what I lost. And so I'm grateful for those moments because it taught me to look at what I have.
Yeah. The lessons when we're put in these positions, our quickest response is, how am I going to get out of it? Right? We
Hmm.
start trying to figure it out, trying to make
Hmm.
things up, trying to find the shortcuts. And really, when we stand in that stillness and see what is actually happening, what
Hmm.
direction to pivot at this point and find the solutions, how do you help those that you serve or anyone that's listening into this? What would you advise them to do when they're in that moment of survival? Because again, you stated it very clearly that we live in survival mode, and so many of us do
Hmm.
till this day, and we know better. We have the
Hmm.
tools, the resources, the evidence, and we
Hmm.
still choose to stay there. So what would you
Right.
advise someone on how to kind of um pivot that?
Well, and I also want to say too something I missed in regards to your question about the mindset was in thinking about all that was lost, I would go into suicidal ideation where I'm like, I'd rather just end it all. And it's just like, no, God's like, okay, just because this is tough or just because you lost a lot does not mean just give up on it all because you
Mm,
may not see the light at the end of the tunnel. So I would tell, someone who may be going through that or thinking in that way that there is light at the end of the tunnel, that there is life after this, that there is so much more that God has for you and that it will pass. I know we hear that, but it really will pass. And so now in 2024, I'm looking back to 2011 during the flood and I'm like, oh my goodness, I remember thinking, I want to end it all. I don't want to move back in the house with my mom. I'm 30 something years old. I got my own place. I've been on my own. But it's like, but you have somewhere to go. And I'm looking back now and saying, wow, I remember where I was. So I just want to encourage someone to say, it might seem like there's no light at the end of the tunnel, but just be encouraged and keep living. Keep living day by day by day. And you'll look back 11 years later and say, look, oh my gosh, I made it through that. By the grace of God, you made it through. So that's what I would tell them.
yeah, I really believe that all those that have made the choice and taken the action and stayed consistent with their role once they make those decisions and they go on the journey of growth and
Mhm.
self-development and self-care
Mhm.
and building, whether it's a business, whether they're thriving in their careers, in their families and all that stuff. It's so easy for us to not celebrate that, right? To not celebrate and look back and say, wow,
Mhm.
this is all I've done today. We don't document it.
Mhm.
Have you
Mhm.
documented your journey? Do you do any journaling?
Oh, yes. I love to write. I journal, have notebooks everywhere. But you're so right, Nikki. I literally just had this conversation with my coach, because I have someone that encourages and motivates and keeps me, accountable. And it's like we need to learn how to celebrate the things that we look over sometimes because we're so used to doing it. You know how to drive, you drive well, you didn't get pulled over. It's these little small things, like, okay, you didn't speed this day, like you took your time, you observed your surroundings, you took the long way home, you saw the beautiful greenery, you saw the sky or the star. It's those little things that sometimes we need to celebrate. Celebrate those small wins. Even if you only got one customer, or even if you only sold one shirt, that's one shirt more than what you sold when you first were thinking about the vision, or first, saying, I'm going to start this business, or move in this ministry, or organization. So it's important to take those little moments and celebrate it and write it down and see how far you have gone, and see, yes, you have a 5-year plan, but look at where you're at right now in year one. Look how much you've grown. So yes, definitely.
Oh my goodness, such good stuff here. Now, you said to look back 1 year and see, what you've done and celebrate those moments. And you talked about a lot of things that we take for granted in our lives, that being able to see, being able to touch, being able to hear and listen and connect and get in rooms and be able to read a book and
Mhm,
feed your education,
mhm.
going out there to support someone else. Like, there's so many things we get to do, and we have the choice to do them, and people don't take that chance. They don't go out there. Tell us what your core values, what are the core values that guide your leadership decisions and actions today?
Oh, definitely integrity and consistency. I think those two things keep keep us going. If it's integrity, we value those that cross our path. Whether it's doing a course with them, whether it's selling a shirt, or they're a guest on the podcast, whatever it may be. We want them to know that, oh my goodness, they were so professional. They listened to me, they called me back, they responded to my emails. It wasn't like they just left me there in the inbox for weeks. But these are things that are sometimes challenging, from some customers or business owners. And so those two things really drive, and I would also say listening, having that compassion, empathy for people that we meet, and just listening to them and seeing where they're at and how we could be of service to them. We may not necessarily provide the service, but we may know someone. We may say, hey, Nikki, can you reach out to this woman or reach out to this man concerning business? And you may say yes, probably, because Nikki's probably going to say yes. She's such a sweetheart. But, someone else could be a blessing to them. So those are the things we really value.
Yeah, that's so true. Actually, I just literally put a post about 10 minutes before we got on here. I had took a picture of one of my notary clients, which is Disha's daughter, right? She took my
Mhm,
notary course, and
mhm,
we were doing some mock sales, took a picture, and I actually was able to get her a referral. So one of my supervisors from when I worked in corporate needed
yeah.
a notary, and just being busy and everything that we're working towards. Um, I said, hey, yes, I just have a graduate. I think she'll be amazing. Made
Mhm,
that connection, and boom, she had her first referral. And it was so amazing to witness how
mhm.
we can help each other grow and impact lives. And tell
Right.
us how your entrepreneurial journey started. When did you meet your husband? Like, because I know you're just a huge tag team.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about that. Like, where at, after this flood, so many years later, tell us, like, what was that transition?
Well, that transition was, I mean, ladies, I'm gonna be honest with you. I was, after getting divorced, I went through a stage where I'm like, oh no, I'm doing background checks. I'm not just dating anybody. I'm not just, I was literally like a hardcore. It was a challenge. But I got remarried to a college a friend of mine. We reconnected after 15 years. And I never even knew this was going to happen. I was so like, no, I'm not getting remarried, nothing. But my sweetheart, David Washington, when we came together, he literally, I was so safe with him. I was so emotionally and still to this day safe with him that I literally shared my heart and was like kind of shocked that I did. And, from then we got married in 2018. And then we also launched RhemaCreationz, which is a Christian apparel line, that same year. So we have been working on things and coming up with different visions and how we wanted the shirts to be. And we just only thought it was just going to be shirts. But God had other things in mind because now we have courses. We have Rhema Village, which is the outreach and community and working with different organizations, helping people as much as we can with the resources we have who may be homeless or need housing or things like that. And so we never visioned that it would go from just 4 little T-shirt designs to now it's like people call in need of help, or who can I reach out to for this and that. And we're just grateful to do it together. It means a lot.
That is so beautiful to just know and watch and all that good stuff. For me, it's a challenge because my spouse is totally the opposite of me. Like I'm the go-getter. I'm the one. They're more like chill, like
Yeah.
age difference and all that stuff. So for me, it was pretty hard. I really had to justify like my purpose and my passion and why I was doing what I was doing because um we're so placed in this the world, this box of what people call normal, but what is normal, right? Like
Hmm.
what is normal? Everyone's normal is different. And
Hmm.
for me it was really to look where I can serve, how I can support and get women to share their stories, get their life, because it took one decision to get into a room to say, hey, all I want to do is speak and share my voice. And I never knew. If you would have told me I would have been a 6-time author, an award-winning speaker,
Right.
a podcast host, I would have been like, you are out of your mind. Like, that's a lot of work because that's
Right.
usually like I don't have time commitment. I had a family, but I knew I wanted more. And if this
Hmm.
is what God put in my space, then I was
Amen.
going to take it. So just even going back, you said you thought you were just going to do shirts. Well, my vehicle out of corporate was notary. So I
Yeah.
thought I'm just going to be a notary and drive and witness people sign their signatures. But when people started asking like, hey, how did you become a notary? And I'm like, okay, here's an email. This is what the course I did. Here's the supplies you need. And I didn't think that they would follow up, but they were like, no, how do you become a good
Yeah.
notary? How are the ins and outs? And I had only been doing it for 2 years, but I had completed like 1,000 of them.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I said, God's telling me to build a coaching course.
Yeah.
That's your purpose falls into your lap when you're looking for it, when you're taking the
That's good.
pivotal the movements. So I'm going to ask you one last question for this segment. We're going to take a break and we're going to tap into the shirts, the coaching, and all of that good stuff. So how do you maintain a positive and resilient mindset, especially through challenging situations? And give us an example of a challenging situation that when you hit it straight on, you were able to overcome it.
Well, I definitely pray. I pray, I ask God now more than ever because I genuinely want to do what's right. I genuinely want it to be a blessing to someone, shape, or form. I think one of the challenges I was going through, where prayer and just, journaling, writing down my feelings, was I went through a time of grief and I was grieving. COVID, like it seemed like I lost so many different people. My husband, his mother had passed away. My childhood babysitter it was just sudden death after sudden death. And it was really difficult to navigate through that. So I was struggling creatively. I was struggling to, creativity is my thing. It's the gift that God's given me. And I'm sitting here struggling because I had to be honest with myself, Nikki, and say I'm grieving. Because sometimes we don't grieve properly. We keep going, we go to work, we keep pushing. And it just was a really tough time. So I had to be honest with myself and say, you know what, I need help. I need guidance with this. I'm struggling. And so prayer and journaling, reading my word, my support system. That's another thing. My support system, my circle, I was so honest with them that it was okay that I wasn't perfect. I wasn't that strong woman. I was okay to be a wife, but hubby's not getting mad because I didn't want to wash dishes or I didn't want to cook a meal. I'm like, I'm just not feeling it today, and
Right?
to have that help through that challenge because I didn't have to be strong. I was able to just be me. And that is what really helped through that challenging time.
Powerful. Thank you so much for sharing that. We're going to take a quick moment. I have been enjoying this, so I hope you might have to put this on repeat and take some notes. We'll be right back.
Hi, my name is Jose Escobar, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Connected Leaders Academy. We're a growing tribe, a community of entrepreneurs all over the world, globally, all across the country, high performers, titans of industry. If you're an entrepreneur and you're looking to grow personally and professionally, scale your influence, develop your skill sets, move the needle in your business, more clients, more money, more profit, the bottom line, and of course, grow your circle and your network like never before, this is where you want to be. Join the Connected Leaders Academy today. We are scaling massively. We want to welcome you in. Check me out on Instagram and on Facebook, the @ JAESCO25. We look forward to having you join us. Take care.
Welcome back. Welcome back. Those are just the messages from our sponsors, as well as what we have going on here at Bomb Global, where we're always looking to highlight and celebrate our community members. So we met in When Women Empower, like I said earlier, from Tiffany Harris's group, and we were talking about you connecting with your husband and now building this entrepreneurial journey together and celebrating and all that good jazz. Tell us about what you do exactly and how people can get a hold of you.
Yes, so we of course have a apparel and we have books. The
Do
first
you have
book.
any that you can
Yes,
show
I
us?
do. I do. I can share two of them. And I have one of the anthologies. Here, I'll start with one of the anthologies is called Seasons of the Soul. It's a little blurry. Sorry about that.
Yeah, if you
But
put it in front
Seasons,
of you, we can see it.
okay. Yes,
Yep.
Seasons of the Soul. Okay, perfect. And that's my dear sister, Valerie Champion, from Speak Up Sis community. She asked me to, provide some writings, and it was such an honor to do that. And then my first published book is called Broken Vessels, Letters to Abba. This was actually through a publisher, Gospel for You Publishing. And that was released in July 23rd, 2020. And then our most recent book, which is my baby, is Concrete Rose, Letters to Abba. This was self-published, me and my husband, in January of 2023. And so this book is the meat and potatoes of the journey over the past 12 years. And when I tell you, I was fearful to release it. I was nervous. But what I love mostly is that my husband's like, hey, are you finished writing? Did you write that? Did you know? And the Lord was getting on me too. Like, you have until the end of January 2023 to get this book done. And I'm serious. This book was finished January 28th, I believe, of 2023. So a couple days before the end of the month. So I am just grateful for it. And as a result of the books that have been published, we released our first class that goes with this book. So if anyone purchased Broken Vessels, Letters to Abba, you are also able to be a part of a course that's about 7 weeks long. And it's talking about everything, rejection and, self-sabotage, which is something that I struggled with. I struggled with self-sabotage because I was there, pushing everyone else. But when it came to me and I'm like, well, what's all this resistance? It's like, maybe it's not meant to be. So I would just quit, But no, I had to learn to push through that resistance. We had to learn that there's going to be some loss sometimes in business. There's going to be some gains. So we've learned so much over the years. And so launching in 2018 to now 2024, we have courses. We also have music. So we are working on music. I have a single out called The Process, and that was released last year. And when I say the song is all about literally going through the process and becoming who God called you to be. So we're blessed to do these amazing things.
Oh my goodness. Usually I have chills, but I have like butterflies right now. And I'm totally honest with you. Like, my stomach is like literally with butterflies because, one, you and your husband were able to write a book together. We're able to share your story, and you guys are on mission right now. And to be able to put that in a course, like, I'm sure it's been done. No one that I know, but I'm sure it's been done.
Yeah.
And, well, actually, I do have some co-authorships with some husband and wife together, but to see that authority book in your passion, and I need like the link, like after we get off of this, like I need the link. So I need to order it. That's one. Two, to again talk about the topics that we do not want to face. We don't want to face them. And I think, what was the process of writing the book and having to be faced with what you shared, without telling us what you shared? But maybe you want to tell us one thing, one big thing that kind of moved you, and you're like, oh my goodness, like, am I really gonna tell the world this? Share a little bit about that.
Yeah, one of the deepest things on this journey that I don't mind sharing with people, but is very personal, is that the Lord told me that I needed a heart transplant, and nothing was wrong with my heart. But because of the issues of life, that survival mode had me a little hard-hearted, where I wasn't letting in certain people, or I was letting in the wrong people. So it was like all these things I had to learn, and I had to learn also how to rest. So I write about that conversation. I write about that time of prayer in the first book, because it was a process where I had to literally study the heart, because I couldn't understand what God is saying. Like, what's wrong with my heart? And I'm a kind person, a loving person, and I'm willing to help people, but that still didn't mean that like you had it all together, right? And so, I had to learn how that rejection is not a bad thing. You know what I mean? So you might be rejected in one area from someone or a group of people, but there is someone out there that will hear you and will take what you say and appreciate it and value it. But because of my heart and hearing that rejection and that rejection hitting it, you go into survival mode where you shut down, right? And so he had to teach me how to deal with rejection because it's unavoidable, you know? And if you don't deal with rejection well, you know, you'll sometimes sabotage, you'll sometimes walk away, you'll sometimes think, oh, well, forget it, you know, I don't need you and I can do it on my own. But we do need each other, we need community. So I thank God for these communities, you know, women of leadership and women empowerment, you know, Balm Impact, all these different organizations that are genuinely supporting women, genuinely supporting businesses. You know, I appreciate that. So if God didn't get a hold of my heart, Nikki, I'm telling you, I would not be right here. I would not have this conversation because I probably would have sabotaged it. Right? I would have been like, maybe I'm not supposed to because the internet wasn't working right. Or you know, it's just those little things that we talk ourselves out of. And so that's why the course so important, because there were women and men who were struggling in these same areas. And so I'm just grateful to show them that they can make it out.
Oh my goodness. So you said something really important about um, the identifying these stuff that can lead to self-sabotage, right? So the whole point is to be equipped, have these tools in place. And I'm all about proactiveness, right? Let's figure it out. Like, let's set up for just in case.
Yep.
Let's have our shields up and ready to go. But you also talked about not basically judging without judging, but it was just your heart, because either lack of trust, either you've been, you know, hurt in the past, or it could have been anything. So being able, and I love that you used that God stepped into your space and said, you need a heart transplant. And you're like, well, wait, my heart is good. But you delve in and you heard the voice, and you took action, and you went and searched for what was he telling you. Tell us about Psalm 103, 13.
Yes, that scripture is, I did not have a close relationship with my natural father. And so my idea of fatherhood and relationships with men was not the best. You know, that was my experience, you know. And so to learn that God was a father, what is that? Right? What does that look like? So I had to even change my thought process of how God is a father. So what does that look like? You know what I mean? Like how he's compassionate. Well, what does compassion look like coming from a man? If your experiences have not always been compassion, you know? And so I had to learn that. And one thing I want to say that, you know, ties to business as well as our walk, you know, is have the courage to do the hard work. I had to admit, like, you got daddy issues. You know what I mean? Like, you can't sit there in front like you don't have a problem in this area. So I had to say, okay, Toya, I'm struggling with this because of this. And be okay to have the courage to do the work, you know, to journal, you know, maybe have a courageous conversation with your father if possible, or with your mother, or, you know, whatever it may be. You know, everybody's situation is different. But I had to admit that, like, I was struggling in this area because of this. And so that particular scripture, just, it always touched me. It always touched my heart that God has compassion for us, that he loves us in a way, you know, that he looks beyond our mess. And he's like, yeah, but there's still good there. Like, that's my daughter, that's my son. And I just love that, you know. So that's what that scripture means to me.
Thank you so much for sharing that. So this has been absolutely phenomenal. Just knowing you, just what, a few months, but
Yeah.
now getting to know you a little bit more. Like, I need to dig deeper. Like, we need to connect. We need to continue this conversation. It's so powerful. You have so much to offer, and her always hear great things about you from the ladies from When Women Empower as well. Thank you for, checking our group last week. It was awesome
Yes,
to
beautiful.
have you. Thank you so much. So how can we reach you? And tell us a little bit more about this course. Like, what is the mission behind the book and the course? Like, what are people going to walk away with at the end of the 7 weeks?
Oh, definitely. One thing is my hope and prayer is that you completely surrender your heart to God, that you get on the potter's wheel, right? When you're on that potter's wheel, and I tell people in the course that it's not always easy, but the potter, he is so gentle, and it looks like that wheel is like flying, right? But it's going at the right speed, because every person has a process. Some may go a little faster, some may go a little slower, but God knows what's best for you. And so, I want them to also know that they're not alone. Like every challenge that you've been through, whether it's addiction, whether it's abuse, whether it's, self-sabotage, whatever, you are not by yourself. And also to know that there is joy, right? Like you can make it through this. I think we have sometimes lost hope because it seems so hard. But you talked about it earlier. There is hope, there is joy, there is, peace. And to know that you have someone there with you, cheering you on, it's a beautiful thing.
You just make me smile. And another thing that I just have to share, because this is how the synergy works, right? When you get to continue to connect with people and just find, those values in each other and all that stuff. You said 3 major words during this topic. You may have said the other ones, but I don't know if you know, but my book, Building a Leadership Mindset, which is the name of this podcast, actually, the chapters spell out create success.
Mhm.
And the first chapter is courage, which we talked about. I won't go through all of them, but you said support system at some point during this. You have to
Mhm.
have a support system. You had that.
Mhm.
Some people don't. How
Right.
does a support system look like? Right. That's what I put in my book. But the main one that just sends shivers, I got the shivers now, was surrender. I have a chapter called Surrender, because sometimes we try to control it all. Sometimes we try to figure it out. Sometimes we try to just throw anything out there, not taking the time to
Mhm.
really say, hey, is this serving me? Is this not serving me? And if you
Mhm.
feel like it's gonna serve you
Mhm.
and it's not getting the results, but when you
Mhm.
step back and you stand still and you surrender, which is so important, and lay it down at that cross and
Mhm.
just say, okay, is this important to me right now?
Mhm.
What are some of the questions when someone's surrendering? What are the questions should people be asking themselves during that time of stillness and reflection?
I one thing that people say is that I'm not ready. And I'm like, but are you willing? Because I wasn't ready for a lot of things, right? But God's
What?
like, are you willing? Like some of the things that we gotta uproot and pull up can be difficult. I'm not gonna lie, it can be challenging. But are you willing though? Like, are you willing to allow God? Because He's a gentleman, right? He can take his time. He knows exactly how to talk to each and every one of us. We're his children. So for us to surrender, it's not just are you ready? Are you willing? Some of us aren't ready. When we were kids, they would just push us in the deep end. We didn't swim nothing. But I'm telling you, we dog paddle up that way. We got to the top, you know? And it's
Yes.
like, are you willing though? Are you willing to get into that deep end and really change? And it goes back to what you said for the chapters in your book, the courage. To have the courage to keep fighting, to keep enduring and keep pressing through to be successful. When I see success, I tell people all the time that people pay attention to the fruit, but they don't look at the root. They
Mm,
don't look at every single thing that Nikki had to go through before Bomb Impact, Bomb Global, before the podcast. Like there was things that Nikki went through. There were things that David went through. There were things that Toya went through. And now you see the fruit of it. But we had to endure. We
Mm,
had to go, and we're still enduring, right? God
yeah.
has so many mighty things for Bomb Impact. So,
Mhm.
and all these different businesses and everything. So there's still more. And hey, are you willing? Are you
Yeah.
willing to try? Do you have the courage to try? And you're not by yourself. So that's one thing I would say.
I love that. I have a follow-up question to that.
Yeah.
Going through the journey, looking back now, was it all worth it?
Oh yeah. Yeah. One thing I'm gonna say is that sometimes I used to, and I had to really, really pray about that. It's like I regret that happening. I wish that didn't happen. It's like, no, every single part of our journeys has a purpose, right? I remember one time in grad school, no, matter of fact, this was undergrad, I could not understand what Jim had to do with my criminal justice. I'm just like so confused. Like, what, Jim? What is that?
I'm with you, girl.
None of this stuff makes sense. What does art have to do with getting a human service degree? But those little electives and prerequisites and things like that are meaningful, and it will help you. And nothing is wasted. I hear people say that all the time. Nothing is wasted, and it's so true. The journey might be challenging and you may feel like it's pointless, but I'm telling you, it's going to come back. I first worked at Burger King and worked at Pizza Hut, and some of those skills I learned at Burger King and Pizza Hut helped me and my husband do business, right? Because we know it takes money, it takes time management, it takes record keeping and all these different things. So those little small things help, and never would have thought, but it does.
I totally agree. My first job, so I'm from Chicago, Illinois. So my first job was Popeyes.
Mhm.
Did a couple things in between retail and stuff like that. My last job was at KFC, which was a little bit different because that led me to a little bit of, managerial space and,
Yeah.
scheduling and all those things and stuff like that. And then I moved to Philly, and I'm here now with that only being my background, to be
Mhm.
given the opportunity to get my first corporate job with
Wow.
no experience in healthcare. What do you do with that? Like, my thing, like, I'm not just gonna, okay, I'm gonna get better money, I'm gonna get better pay,
Mhm.
let me just sit it out. No, I worked my tush off to learn what
Right.
everybody did in there. It was important to me
Mhm.
to say,
Mhm.
okay, how can I um climb the corporate ladder, because that's all I knew. All I knew was go to school, get your
Mhm.
education, get a job, retire, and enjoy your 40%. They never told us about all this other stuff, right?
Right.
Tell us about all this other stuff. So what you have built with your husband and helping women, men, families, and couples, and just anybody that will take a chance on them and listen, is an absolute blessing. When you
Thank you.
have that I don't want to say itch, because, well, I guess an itch, right? When you have that itch,
Yeah.
like, you have to get something done and something's inside you is burning, the
Mhm.
idea, let it
Mhm.
out. Don't tell
Yeah.
everyone, but definitely let it out to
Yeah.
the right people that you trust. Figure it out. Don't worry about how you're going to make the thousands or the millions.
Mhm.
Just worry about getting it done, taking action, being consistent, all these words that we
Mhm.
hear on a day-to-day basis, but we still choose not to do it. I challenge everyone who's listening to this episode to take a chance, go to the next step, connect with Latoya. I'm sure she would love to have a conversation, get to know
Yes.
you, and how she can serve you. You have been absolutely phenomenal. I am blessed to know you. I am
Thank
blessed
you.
to be in community with you, and I can't wait to serve right next to you
Thank
on
you.
any platform. Thank you for gracing us with your wisdom, with your story, with your vulnerability, and with your truth. You
Thank
are
you.
absolutely amazing. And let's tell all of those who picked on us, like, who's laughing now? Because I'm living it, right? I love it. And just love, because God is love.
Amen.
That's the only thing we have to live for, really, because we
Mhm.
don't take any of this with us.
No.
What we leave behind is the legacy and how we want people to see us
Mhm.
at our best, right? At time, at our end, not what we did 10, 20, 30 years
Right.
ago that,
Mhm.
we learned from already, and people try to hang it over our heads. But
Yeah.
no, don't self-sabotage. How can people get a hold of you?
Yes, you can visit www.brokenvesselspodcast.com. You can also email me at brokenvesselspodcast@gmail.com, or visit our RhemaCreationz website, and I'll spell that for everybody. It's www.rhemacreationz.com, and that's where you can register for courses or also register to be a guest online for the podcast. So I hope to hear from you guys and just to have a conversation, make you laugh, whatever you may need at that time.
Yeah, absolutely. And talking about podcasts, we have a celebration coming up. Tell us
Yeah.
about that and how people could jump in on that opportunity.
Yes, well, we will be celebrating on July 20th. Our official 3 years will actually be April of 2024, but we're going to be celebrating on July 20th in the warmer months and get dressed up all nice and beautiful. I'm thinking of some different things, but it's definitely July 20th in Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania, and I'm so excited. I'm hoping that my sister Tiffany and Nikki might squeeze by for a second, and but we'll talk about that. But I'm just happy, have some phenomenal speakers coming that's going to share their journey, and that's what it's about, to just bring hope, redemption, and restoration to people.
Yeah. And I truly believe that the solutions that you and your husband have put together, it's because you guys lived through them.
Yeah.
And that's where the truth comes in. When you are looking for a coach and a mentor, you want someone that can relate, that's not just going to share what they learned, which is great, and they might, have some impact. But when you have someone aligned with exactly with what you're going through or something similar, it is awesome to see and watch the collaborations and the growth that comes from those that seek out, right? If you don't ask, you will
Yes.
not receive. And it's
Yeah.
okay to so you may feel intimidated. You may feel like, okay, I'm not going to tell my business, I'm not ready to tell my
Hmm.
business. But
Hmm.
is it serving you when you're holding it
Hmm.
in, when there's people out there
My
ready
God.
to help you unlock that and
Hmm.
release that, because you deserve abundance? Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Building a Leadership Mindset podcast. Latoya, I'm going to give you another minute. What last words of inspiration do you want to leave with this audience?
Oh, I want to say, don't quit. Keep going, stay consistent, stay persistent, and stay determined. There is going to be, you look back and you say, my goodness, I can't believe we're celebrating 20 years, 40 years, 60 years. And you need that to leave a legacy. So it's about permanence and not temporal. So we want to, do our best to just stay consistent, stay persistent, and stay determined.
Thank you so much. Mic drop with that. Have a great night. Tune into our next guest coming up soon. And also make it count. Have a great one, everyone.
All right.